Bernard Brogan Senior, good to see you.
Thanks very much. Good to be here.
I hope it is. It's been a while. It's been a while since I had you ever present on the Plunkett sideline, giving out to me.
We had good times.
Yeah.
Didn't do what we hoped to do, but remember, we tried hard.
Yeah, we nearly got there.
Yeah, we nearly got there.
Yeah, it was a pity. I was thinking just before, chatting to you, I was thinking it was a bit of a golden era with that team. There was some serious talent in that team, and there still is serious talent in the team. And how many finals now? Last year, obviously.
Two, no, not last year, but this year we're beating the first round. So we've been in 2 finals and a couple of semi-finals, and the team is good enough to win. But it's just one of those things when teams that like winning teams win, and teams that don't win sometimes don't win. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
We're still good enough to win, but whether or not we've got the application in terms of just putting it together, I'm not sure.
Yeah. But it was an awful pity. That was a real killer that time against Bridget's. Because we'd kind of come through the hard side of the draw. I think we beat Vincent's on the way to it. A very good Vincent's team, and I think the Ballymun were beaten by Bridget's, I think, in a kind of a surprise semi-final, and we just got caught on the day. It was an awful disappointment.
Tactically, I think we were outdone that day, and ultimately, Gaelic football's got a lot to do with tactics. And you see that when new managers take over, the way the teams play. So you can have great players, but it's a team event, so you have to put the team together, and you have to get the best out of each of the players, and sometimes that just doesn't work no matter what you do. Yeah, and it costs us. Anyway, that's my disappointment out of the way. We'll move on.
So good to see you. How are you keeping? Good?
I'm good, yeah.
Good stuff. Enjoying the
2 knee replacements. So I'm a guy that when they get to my age, as I said to Ono Guard after last year's All-Ireland final, this is what happens in 60 years' time or 40 years' time.
2 knee replacements.
Yeah.
How are they working out for you?
No, I'm good. I can't complain.
Yeah, good
not
stuff.
100%, but then my surgeon tells me, he says, you're not getting new knees, you're getting replacement knees, and they're not the same.
Right, yeah. Well, look, as long as they work a bit better than the last ones, then you're all
But I'm not here, so here I am.
Exactly.
And no lift, I got up the stairs.
And you got up the stairs on your own. We didn't have to take you in the window.
Yeah, that's it.
So look, I want to bring you back. Obviously, we'll get to kind of, Alan, Bernard, Paul, the whole Brogan kind of family and everything else, and obviously the Dubs and what's happened in the last number of years. But, to go back to your own, I suppose, career and how things started. I remember my father talking to me about kind of Dublin back in the 70s and the rivalries that were there between Meath and Offaly in Dublin, and how for many a year, like I think it was 7, 8, nearly 9 years, I think Dublin hadn't won a Leinster until a Leinster was won, I think, in 74. And there was a lot of barren years, and I remember him chatting to me, telling me that it was nearly that the hurlers were nearly actually the first team, and the footballers were kind of nearly a poor cousin. And I remember just chatting to you about it, and you mentioning certain things about being brought in. Just bring me back to that way, because you were obviously playing with Plunkett's at the time and training away. And what happened around that era?
I was a 20-year-old in 1973.
Yeah.
And Dublin hadn't played in an Ireland final for 11 years, and pretty much, I won't say nobody didn't want. I certainly wasn't interested in playing for Dublin. I was going to college, playing for Dublin. Today there's a great sort of desire to play for Dublin. At that stage there was no desire. The team that was playing was pretty much the team that had played for the last 5 or 6 years. Kevin Heffernan came and spoke to me in October 1973 and asked me to play, and I said I hadn't got time. I was doing my final years of college, and they came back. Himself and Don Colfer came back maybe 6 weeks later, and I agreed at that stage to go out training with the team. And pretty much they brought in an enormous number of footballers. When I say enormous number, maybe 50 or 60 guys went through a process where they had introduced, let's call it, more serious collective training than anybody had done before.
And would it be fair to say that was the first time that was done?
I think it was. Mickey Whelan had a big input in that as well. I think Mickey Whelan had been to the States. Mickey obviously played in the 60s with Dublin, went to the States, did a Masters in Sports Psychology or Sports Education, and came back. And I think, so I won't say all of the thinking that was there, but I think Kevin and himself were very friendly. So a lot of the thinking that Mickey Whelan brought back came out in the training that Kevin Heffernan started to implement. And as I say, a lot of people went through, and many people dropped off because they didn't want to do that type of training.
Right.
Didn't want to train twice a week, very regular, hard sessions, with the sessions building up. Today, people expect that. It's not you can't even walk through the door if you're not prepared to do that today.
So what was the norm? Give me just the normal week, say prior to that.
For 6 years, we pretty much, because the National League started at that time in October and went through the winter and finished in, I can't remember when the final was. And we generally got to the later stages of the National League. I think there were two divisions.
Right.
And it was the first year in 1973 we played in the final of Division 2. We played in the final Division 2, and we used to train Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturday morning, and play football on Sunday, and we did that pretty much religiously.
Right.
52 weeks of the year. So again, today we have got, training camps. We never really went on a training camp, for a weekend. We never really had to, not that I can remember, we never had what I consider to be a full day's training.
Right, yeah.
But we were very regular in the sense that we were Tuesday, Thursday every week, whereas today, one of the problems with teams today is that because of the intensity, what happens is that the intensity builds up as you come towards matches, and it's very hard for people to make plans.
Yes,
Kerry now trained differently, because Mick O'Dwyer used to let the guys in pretty much, let's call it winter well, and then start them training in April or May, and he trained then for maybe 6 weeks,
run the tar
6 days a week. Yeah. So they had different systems, and I think that the difference between our team and Kerry's team was, but in 1974, and people don't really realise this, I was a 20-year-old. Jimmy Keevan was a 29-year-old.
Yeah.
So in 1970, we won in 74, 76, 77, 78, 79. The team was pretty much breaking up. That team was breaking up in 79. Jimmy Keevan and those guys were
mid-30s kind of
mid-30s,
Yeah.
And we had maybe 6 guys that were that age.
Yeah.
That's unheard of today,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's sort of
so there was very much a mix of very young and kind of the older lads who had soldiered all the way through those late 60s, early 70s.
Fellas who had retired. I mean, Jimmy Keevan had retired
in
73, and he was brought back to play in 74. So that's just unusual in that sense, that it was just you had these guys that had a huge amount of experience, a lot of knowledge, hadn't really played in any of the big matches, and you had young guys that were coming in that were just, I think in 1974 though, the only guy who hadn't played championship football previously for Dublin was Brian Mullins.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all the other guys had experience, but had never really won. I don't know whether we'd won a championship match for 3 or 4 years at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, competition in Leinster at that time was, unlike today, was pretty serious. I mean, Meath had a team that you didn't go to any matches thinking that they were easy. There was always a risk that something would go wrong.
Yeah.
So.
And did you, when you look back on it, like Heffernan, as you say, Mickey Whelan brought in that kind of collective training. Prior to that, so say even before they came in, was it kind of once a week? Was it just gathering together?
No idea. Since that I didn't train with them. As I say, when he came and asked me to play, Dublin had no what I consider to be profile at all in let's say in Dublin circles.
Right.
So I had no interest in playing for Dublin when he came first.
Yeah.
Because they weren't winning anything. I mean, it's got to do with winning. It's like the teams that are ultimately start the year, 32 teams start the All-Ireland. Actually, 34 teams start the All-Ireland if you count New York and London. And the vast majority have no chance of winning anything. And still they put in huge effort, It's an amazing phenomenon, really.
So he brought that with it, and he obviously brought, like what the Heffernan and the Whelan, obviously the input, but he must have brought, first of all, he brought obviously a massive belief, because straight away you win a Leinster and you go on to win the All-Ireland. Like, so, was it belief? Was it the structure of the thing? Like, how did he change that team's profile around? Because ultimately you went from, as you say, a team that no one wanted to play for to be All-Ireland champions.
Well, there was a long gestation that you think it was from October right through into the All-Ireland final the following year, and pretty much, I think that year we won a bit like Tipperary this year. Okay, we won all the matches this year, and okay, Tipperary were beaten in the match, but I mean, you create momentum, and it wasn't that we believed we were going to win the All-Ireland. We just played every match as it came,
right? And
the next match was the match that was important to us. Wasn't an All-Ireland final. I mean, when Dublin started this year, they're thinking, even though Jim and all the guys say we're not, they're thinking about the All-Ireland. Their aim is to win.
They're thinking down the road.
They're thinking down the road, and whereas at that stage we were just happy to win each match as it came. And as the momentum built up, the training got harder, the guys got fitter. They never got to the latter stages of the championship in the past before that to actually get to a level where they could actually compete with the other teams, because teams that play in the championship, when they get to July or August, they're a different team than the team that starts.
Yeah.
Because they've won a few matches, they've created momentum, they've got harder training, they're building confidence. The young guys that start with no experience now have a bit of experience, and fellas, stars are born through winning. It's like before Donegal won the All-Ireland, most of the guys off that team had played previous championship matches. Maybe McBrearty hadn't, and
some of the younger
Michael
lads,
Murphy sort of has just come, and those two are a big impact in that team.
Yeah,
but
McFadden
the other
and these
guys,
lads,
they don't play it,
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden they win an All-Ireland. Now they're stars.
Yeah.
It's sort of.
So did Jimmy Keeving or the boys, were they, running around going, Jesus, this is a lot different than it was? Like, I mean, did they embrace it, or were they shocked by it?
No, I think they embraced it because
Yeah.
they wanted to win as well. I mean, as I say, I was a young guy who was doing. I did other things. I did a bit of running, and I played a bit of basketball, and there was lots of other things. But it was going to college, studying, and so it was not doing that. But they were all playing. They wanted to.
Yeah.
They were committed to it in a way. So when they say that there was nobody wanted to play, that's not true. They were playing because they continued on.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't think any of them said, "No, I'm not doing this," because they stuck it out. And I mean, I know people talk about Jimmy. He was a huge man and all that. If you look back, he wasn't that big of a man.
Yeah.
It's just that he was retired. He came back.
He wintered well.
Wintered well, yeah. That's it, yeah. That's a good description of Jimmy.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But what a player.
Oh yeah, no. Look, I mean, the answer is that even today, free taking is so important. And Jimmy Keevan was just, he was the fastest man in our team, probably over 10 yards, and he could kick a ball over from anywhere within 50 yards. And you can't win matches without that.
Yeah. When you think back of it, like the one game a year, like that was it. It was knockout. Was there? Because all you hear nowadays is, geez, structures, and and even the furore over last week. They're trying to put more games in, and then everyone's having their twopence halfpenny's worth, and all the rest of the stuff. Like back then, that was it. 65 minutes gone, or you're gone, and it's all over. And or you as you say, you move on to the next one. Like, was there talk amongst players of, geez, I wish we had more games, or was that just accepted that it was one game, bang, done?
No, it was accepted from our perspective. It was accepted. Now, I was a bit unusual in the sense that I started playing in 1973, and I played for 6 years, and we were involved in 6 All-Ireland finals.
Yeah.
So I never experienced it of going out in the first round of the championship.
Yeah.
Alan, for instance, started in 2002 or 2001, and he played until 2011 before they got to an All-Ireland final.
Yeah.
And statistically in Dublin, Jason Sherrill played in 1975 as an 18-year-old and didn't play in another All-Ireland final.
Yeah.
Which is, for Dublin, was most unusual. 16 years with an All-Ireland final. Statistically, it just shouldn't happen. It just, for whatever reason, it just shouldn't happen. So I don't think there was any of our team. The Dublin team certainly weren't saying we wanted more games because we were winning. I think, the other teams, it's very hard if you're going out in the first game against a team like Dublin and you've only got one match to bring yourself to a level where you can beat them. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
It's like, and some of the teams this year, to get themselves to a level, Roscommon, for instance, started the year in the league. They look very, they looked like they were coming together in the league, and then they got to the kind of final, and they collapsed, and it looked like they were sort of. They just left a lot behind them.
Yes, yeah. Because ultimately, like when you think back, like I look back, like the rivalries of Offaly were obviously a serious team in Leinster back in the 70s. Meath, I think, pushed you in a good few Leinster finals, and like, I mean, then you went on to either contest All Ireland finals or win the All Ireland finals. But then, of course, the ultimate rivalry was the Kerry team. Take me back. Like you were working away, young man, and you were sent down. Sent down south to take over down there, and just like, I mean, that was obviously a very, very strange situation for you, because you were obviously from Dublin all the way working down in Kerry, and ultimately had to train with Kerry lads.
Well, the difference between 1973, 1974 and 1975 for me was 1973 I said I wouldn't play for Dublin. 1974 I could get a job or I had to go out of Dublin, and I said I won't. So I did it. I could stay at college, do a master's.
Yeah.
And 1975 when I finished my master's, I went to my tutor and said, I'm looking for a job, I have to stay in Dublin, not going down the country, and I'm not really interested in working unless I'm working in Dublin. Anyway, he got me a job. 6 weeks into the job, my boss called me in and said somebody was working in the power station in Tarbert, and I had to go down and replace him. So I worked in Kerry then for the year and a half after that. And as it turned out, I got very friendly with Jimmy Dean and some of the Kerry guys. They were all young guys like us, like me, because that Kerry team in '75, the average age of the Kerry team was something like 21. It was it was a very young team. That's why they were so successful.
Yeah,
because they were so young. I won't say so young for so long, but a lot of them came up, started together, and Mick O'Dwyer really only had to replace one or two of them each year. Whereas the team that we had, 6 or 7 of us, or 6 or 7 of the team sort of passed on at the same time, if you know what I mean. Moved.
Yes, yeah.
It's very difficult to do that, you know.
And how, like, what did you obviously lived and worked down there, and you trained down there, and then you just came up for games, and that was it?
No, I came home every weekend.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, and I then I worked at Kilkenny for a year, and I used to come up on the Tuesday and Thursday training. And you know, it was a lot more difficult then because there were no motorways, but it was
absolutely probably a 5 or 6 hour journey.
2 hours up and 2 hours back, you know. But I trained in Kerry, and I mean, you know, I know when I look back, and I think I trained every week Tuesday, Thursday, but obviously I didn't because I was in Kerry for part of that. So I mean, I suppose I was a bit unusual and lucky that today would a manager allow someone to do that for that long? I don't know, you know. It's been. But anyway, Kevin Heffernan didn't show me the door when I said I was going to Kerry.
Yeah.
So he didn't.
But like, I mean, it's one of those rivalries where you look back and it has shaped Gaelic football for years, and it has shaped the rivalry that is still there, you know, now. And two massive teams at the height of their powers going at it, like, you know, nothing asked. Like, what was the rivalry like? Was it a healthy rivalry? Did you even realise at the time when you were in it that, like, you were kind of nearly creating history between the two teams?
I'm not sure we did, because like when we were winning, they had only won one, and since 1974 we won the All-Ireland. In 1975, I won't say they caught us on the hop, but they beat us. We expected to win. Then we won 2 years, and then we were on the slide, and they were winning more. So it sort of, the history was built in a sense by the Kerry guys continuing to win, as opposed to us. So I don't know, we built history. It was a great rivalry, all right, but you know, then we disappeared off the scene a little bit. You know, okay, we won again in '83, but if you look back on it, they stayed up for a long time compared to us. I mean, the Kerry record as a senior footballer team is a much better record than Dublin.
Yeah. What do you think of, you know, moving it on? Like, I mean, obviously, as you mentioned there, you know, Jason, and you know, obviously Jason came back and we played with Plunkett's, obviously, and know Jason well. Like, and when you think of, you know, that long of a period, winning the All Ireland in '95 and going on for that long without ever going again, and then you look at what obviously recent history.
Yeah,
you know, it's amazing how just kind of time and timing, you know, and just the way some fellas can just come into a setup and just have massive success, and then you can obviously be in a setup and have absolutely none. Like, I mean, do you look, like, when you look at it in the last number of years, and even say since Pillar's time, because I know we chatted to Berno about this, this success that Dublin have at the moment, like, what do you think? What if you were to put your the finger on it? Where do you think it has come from? Is you know, what is the secret to it?
I mean, I think there's a good blend of old and new, and it's more it's more new than old now. I mean, like the All Ireland in 2011, we won at death's door in the sense, if you think about it, the last kick of the game pretty much won the All Ireland for us, and that's the way it works unless you've got a very, very, very strong team. So when people talk about Dublin being dominant, we're winning, but we're not winning in those latter games by big margins. You know, we're winning. You know, we're getting across the line. You know, tactically, a couple of years ago, Donegal tactically beat. You know, I think outshone us and beat us. You know, through tactics more than through football. So it's possible for that to happen again. So are we unbeatable? No, we're not. And football's like that. You know, if a goal goes in last Sunday, or you know, last weekend playing Donegal got a goal. Should they've got a goal? They shouldn't be getting goals, because you know the only way they're going to beat is by getting goals.
Yes, yeah.
So we have to stop them.
Yeah. The
4 in a row against Meath, that time Meath got the goal, and if we knew if they didn't get the goal, we probably would have won the match. We didn't. So it's. I mean, why are we winning now? We're wet and winning. I think there's a bit of luck. You have to give credit to the manager. You know, the way he sort of moulded the guys at the 21 level, brought those in, created a team that's got an embarrassment of riches up front. You know, has a strong back line. But if you look at our forward line, you know, we have probably 4 guys on the line that'll be playing in any other county. Yeah. And it's a long time since Dublin have that embarrassment on the sideline, and we've got a lot of guys that can score. Yeah. You know, so in other teams, you look at the scoring. You know, 1 or 2 guys good to score, and the other guys work hard. But we've a lot of guys can score.
Yeah, and that threat is always there.
Always there. So it's hard to mark everybody. You know, you go into the full forward line. I mean, the way the way the Donegal guys play, where they put everybody in front of the full back, the full forward line. The full forward line don't get ball then, but then our half forward score. Dermot Connolly gets long range points. Paul Flynn does. Kieran Kilkenny does. Burnham mightn't get any ball, but they can't watch them all.
Yeah. It's a. it's moved on massively. You look back on. Do you watch the old TG Car? Do you watch any of the?
I do, yeah, some of the games, yeah.
Like, what do you think of the difference? Like, what's your,
Well, I think people talk about the fitness levels, and that people fitter now than they were when I played, and I think there's no question they're fitter. Did we train as hard? Yes, we did, but is the training smarter, more pointed now? Is there better, assimilation of all the bits that go into the training now than there was when we trained? Definitely, because there's more science going into it.
Yeah.
So if you look at the guys, can they run faster? Can they run longer? Probably. So are they fitter? Yeah, there's no question they are fitter. So the game as a game now is a very mobile game. It goes for 70 minutes. They pretty much use all the subs now because certain guys are going to run out in those pivotal positions in the middle of the park and centre half forward, centre back. Those guys are going to run out of steam. And they're pulled off in nearly every game. There's fellas taken off, not because they're not playing well, but because
it's just not working for them or whatever it is.
Yeah. And I just think that in our game, it was more. The game was more. And I know this is one of the people say, how do you deal with this issue here now? Is that the structure of the game we played? We had like 3 backs, 3 full backs, half forwards, and so on. And we pretty much played that game. I know Heffernan, when he started off, he started playing Bobby Doyle is a roving corner forward, which was a little unusual. Yeah. And now we've got all the forwards are roving. So that was a big tactic there. Yeah. But now you look at it. Just fellas are so fit, and the mass defence, like it's sort of the issue I'd have with the way Donegal and Tyrone play the game is that it's debilitating for the guys because they're not really playing football.
Yeah.
They lose the ball, they turn, they go back to whatever position they are in the field, and they turn and start the defence again, and then they run, try to get into the play. It's very hard to do that year after year after year.
Like, if you look back on the teams you were involved with and the Kerry team, say, like, what always struck me was the difference between those two teams and, say, the rest. The majority, say, in the 70s, were actually that it wasn't really just catch and kick with Kerry and Dublin. So you actually wanted to play football, and that was like from the dock kind of all the way up. Well, maybe not the dock.
But no, we had very traditional full backs.
But we'll chat about him later. But if you looked at, so everyone wanted to get on the ball, everyone wanted to play with the ball, but now, and I agree with you, like, there's fellas who are playing Gaelic football at the moment, and if they kick the ball, it might be once every kind of 3 or 4 games type thing. Their job is just to literally, as you say, moving down. It's nearly like kind of playing that Sabuti, or not that table football. They're stuck on a line. They can't move. They have a certain amount of space that they can move into or out of. They have a certain role, and then that is just it. Like, would you like it? Do you think it's gone to pot?
I think it's a team game for starting. I think what Jim McGuinness did, Jim McGuinness said, I'm going to create a team where everybody knows what they're supposed to do. We'll develop the team in a way that we think we can beat the other guys by making sure that the sum of all our parts is better than the sum of the other ones. And some teams, some of the weaker teams have good footballers, but they haven't succeeded in putting all the bits together as a team. I just don't like the way that mass defence, not because it's not a good spectacle, because it doesn't really make sense as a game. If the way it's a bit like soccer. The back four get the ball, they pass the ball back and forth, looking for the gap. Gaelic football is not about gaps, because you can hit long range points. You can do things that are not the same as soccer. And you can keep. It's just a different game.
Yeah.
Now, I just think that whole thing will evolve. It'll change. 1 or 2 rules. I think there's a couple of rule changes they could make. They could stop a back pass to the keeper, so take that out, and they could make sure all free kicks are kicked forward. 1 or 2 things that are easy for the referee to do. People talk about should they force to kick it out beyond the 45-metre line. That's a difficult thing for the referee to manage.
It
has to be,
and especially on his own.
He has to be able to do it very simply, and no back pass to the keeper. So take that man out. And only if you get a free, you have to kick it forward. 3 or 4 things like that would change. I think would change the dynamics of the mass defence a good bit. It's a bit like even in hurling last Sunday. Waterford had a great. The hurling game was just a magnificent game of hurling, and for whatever reason, the last 5 minutes, Waterford drifted back into defence. The last score that Kilkenny got was a short puck out, another short puck, and another short puck, and it was pucked over the bar.
Yeah.
In hurling, that just didn't happen 20 years ago.
Yes, yeah.
There were no sharp hook outs.
Yeah,
Didn't do it. Even if a man was free.
Yeah.
Just wouldn't do it.
Well, it's amazing how, it's evolving all the time, and will continue to evolve. Getting back to the lads, the three boys obviously won the All-Ireland, so massive proud moment for you, obviously, yourself and Marie. What an achievement. Paul obviously getting in and getting on the panel, which was great for Paul, because, Paul is, probably a unbelievably hard-working fella, seriously dedicated, and just got really, really bad luck with injuries, was he as talented, if not probably,
Well, he played different football, so was he as talented? He had a much, let's call it, more physical presence on the field than the other two lads.
Yeah.
But from the time he was 21, he did his first cruciate ligament at 20, playing Sigerson for DCU, or DIT rather. And pretty much, that took him out for 2 years. By the time he got back in again, he played. Now he was on the panel for 4 years with between Pillar and Pat Gilroy. And he never got a championship start. He played league games all right, and then he was dropped when Jim came in. And a week after he was dropped, he did his cruciate again.
Yeah.
So he's done his cruciate 3 times. Dislocated his collarbone. So pretty much if you take all the time that takes out of your football career, it's probably 7 years.
Yeah, it's a long time.
It's a long time, and it's hard work going back. And
then you flipped the coin to Alan. He probably got not lucky with injuries, but he had a great run with stuff.
Yeah, he had a couple of cartilage operations, which today I had a cartilage operation in 1974, and it was a butcher's job then. Whereas today it's keyhole surgery. Yeah, hence the new knees. Today it's pretty much keyhole surgery, so they just take what they need out.
Yeah.
Bernard had a cruciate as well when he was 21 and missed 2 or 3 years, but you can't put him back because he really didn't start then or didn't get into the team formally maybe when he was 24, so that had got a lot to do with that momentum you create. Paul Brogan and Paul Flynn played in the same 21 team, and Paul Flynn sort of came out at the other end and became a great player, and Paul sort of went the other way and just was unlucky,
Yeah, unlucky. Yeah.
He mightn't have made it either, you don't know, but I think he probably would have if he hadn't had injuries,
What were they like growing up? Were they killing each other, or were they all constantly out competing against each other? Obviously they were talented lads. You could see it from an early age, massive pedigree there. But
people often ask me about why are they so good, and it's got to do with the fact that we played football. Obviously, I managed Plunkett senior football team, 1989. 1989, 1990. Alan was 8 at the time, and himself and Bernard used to come training with me, and they'd run up and down the field and do their own little thing as kids, and that sort of gave them a love of the game.
Yeah,
Bernard has a scar on his forehead. If you look at his top of his forehead, he has a scar on top of his forehead, and he got that scar when we were training in the gym in Declan's, and he ran into the crash bar on the fire escape, and he cut his forehead. So that's what height he was. The height of a crash bar.
Yeah.
And he ran straight into it, and that's why. I don't want to say that's why they're so good, but that's got a lot to do with it. They just spent a lot of time.
They were always around it.
Yeah, always around it.
Yeah. And did you quite often, and you can see it even these days. You go out to say watch kids training, and there's managers or there's parents on the sideline, and they're absolutely roaring and bawling, and they think everyone's going to be the next Bernard Brogan. And there's pressure being applied on a lot of young lads coming through and young girls coming through. What were you like? I can imagine you were passive enough. Did you just realise that look, they'll get there in their own time? Or
I won't say I was passive enough. I mean, there were occasions I was quite vociferous. I can remember one occasion with Alan playing under 12 for the referee. And once we were playing against, but the referee I thought wasn't giving him any protection at all, and Alan was crying and wanted to come off, and I went on and said to him, "No, you can't come off. It's part of the team. You have to stay on and do your job." And anyway, he played away in the match, and after the match, I gave the referee terrible abuse and was called in front of the board for it. But as a rule, I wouldn't. The lads might differ now, I suppose.
Depends who you ask.
Depends who you ask. Yeah.
I can't see you just standing on the sideline, keeping your mouth shut.
No, depends who you ask.
Yeah, but if they're your own, it's all right. You can shout at them.
Yeah, well, look, I'm conscious of the fact that they don't want to hear me shouting at them either. I mean, sometimes kids, the last person the kids want to hear giving them advice is their father. Somebody else is fine, but not their father. So I understand that as well. And where they are today, they know as much or more about the game than I do, So
yeah. Was it hard for him to step away this year? Do you think how's his humour been? Has he been okay?
No, I think Alan sort of made it. I think last year, Now, they won the All Ireland. He was lucky enough to come on, scored a great point. But during the year, I think he felt that he was playing well enough to get a number of starts. He didn't get a number of starts. And
it's very difficult.
Yeah, I think that basically left him in a situation where he was saying, "Look, I know what my position is. That I can sort of perform a role in the team, but it's not the role I want to play." He'd won his All Irelands, so if he hadn't won All Ireland, it might be different. But he had. So what more was there for him? He was won his All Irelands, won lots of Leinsters, Player of the Year. So what more? All Stars. He'd won all the
whatever
stuff.
Could be won.
And it's not easy. The commitment that's I won't say demand, but that they give to play in the team is just. It's ridiculous in its own way,
Yeah, like I even saw, obviously we were chatting with Bernard a couple of weeks ago, and Alan was talking about the fact of the way the game has moved on, and especially for the inside forward line. Like Bernard is nearly now a kind of the shall we say traditional corner forward. There's not many left, and he's a fella who is in there targeted to a certain degree. I would targeted a lot by teams. Is it something that you think will even get even more and even worse, like we see all this week talking about targeting of players and sledging of players and all this stuff? It's not something that I would say you condone. Did it happen in your day? Is it something that is just a kind of a recent phenomenon?
I think in our day the game was much more physical.
Yeah.
And there's no question about that. You were talking earlier on about our full back line. We had a physical full back line, there's no question about it. And Kerry had a physical full back line. Paddy wasn't behind the door now and dealing with any issues that arose down there. But there were different times. Like Bernard, when he plays now, generally speaking, they'll have a man marker on him and they'll put their best man marker on him, and that's just difficult for him. And then in a situation where the game's played with the mass defence, when the guys look up, they can't see him because there's too many players, so he's getting no ball.
Yeah.
So the ball he gets, if he gets 3 or 4 balls, he has to make use of it, and it's just very difficult for him.
Absolutely.
But I think the game it'll go back the other way. I'm pretty sure it'll go back the other way because the mass defence is a very debilitating type of game. I think it's and if you get goals against that defence, it just destroys it. And the 4 teams that are left in the championship this year, I think will play football. I'm not saying they will be defensive, but they certainly won't be mass defensive.
No, they won't be. No. And they'll look to play it both ways.
They want to play. They'll leave forwards up. They'll leave enough people up so that when the ball goes up, they can challenge for the ball.
Yeah.
Whereas the mass defences have to actually run the ball every time.
Well, I think ultimately, and it's a very, when you're playing that, it's a very, very short span lifetime you get.
Very debilitating.
Very, very on players as well. Just talking about debilitating and physicality, it's funny. I was checking back on a couple of things. Like it was a different game. Like when you played, even the referees were they even refereeing the game, or were they just bystanders kind of thing? But there was obviously an acceptance of the physicality of it. It has changed so much.
There was the television has changed now because pretty much you're in a situation where it's not just in our day there was television, but it was just on the ball. Whereas pretty much now in Croke Park, they've long range cameras. I don't know how many cameras they've got, but they've got plenty of cameras.
Everything's being picked up.
So if you get away with something, you're lucky.
Yeah.
Whereas in our day, you were unlucky if you were caught.
No, it's funny. I was thinking back to the '75 final. And the infamous one where Mickey Ned O'Sullivan goes on the run and. Poor Mickey Ned, he must have had a death wish that day because there was lads coming at him from all angles.
Everybody that passed him tried to give him a dig, or everybody that he passed rather, So it's 5 or 6 of our guys tried to get their hand on him.
But eventually he was stopped. Yeah. Eventually, and
no names were taken for that. Should there have been a name taken, or should somebody sent off? Probably for that. It was even in our day that was. Pretty tough.
Yeah. Well, what I love is if you see the clip, and we'll put it up, is that Mikey Sheehy comes out and just kind of Mickey Ned is absolutely like stone cold knocked out on the ground, and he just comes out to kind of pick the ball up to take the free. He doesn't say anything to any Dublin players. There was no kind of lads in remonstrating. The referee is standing there, and then there's a what was the lads who used to come in there? Not the Order of Malta. Where they was it the Order of Malta? The John Zamlins. And he's kind of tapping him on the head. I think he's trying to wake him up. Or see if he's still alive. There was no mouth to mouth going on. It was just really tap him on the head and say, "Is he still alive?"
Look, as I say, that was unacceptable. Even that time it was, but it was just. I mean, that's the job.
He woke up, did he, in the Mater Hospital with, with Sam beside him?
Yeah.
He was captain, wasn't he?
He was that year, We actually had the Kerry guys invited the Dublin team of that year down to a function, and maybe 4 or 5, 6 years ago, where they actually presented Mickey Ned with the. The cup. He was never formally presented with the cup, which was lovely. We had a lovely time, great weekend, So
he didn't remember much of the 75.
No.
He probably didn't remember much of that weekend either. So Bernard, thanks for that. And before we let you go, just one last thing. We're running this little quiz with all the guests over the last number of weeks now.
First prize, a trip to Cancun.
Yeah,
that's not official.
Yeah,
I have to interject here. That's not official.
Is it not?
No.
Zika virus.
I'm investigating hotels down in Cancun, but nothing yet. I don't want to jump the gun on it.
Yeah, it could be Carlo. Either
John Doyle and Matty Ford would have to share a room, I think. The way the scores are going.
But listen, don't worry. Johnny Doyle and Matty have 5 out of 5. But there are some. We're going to have a judge's inquiry on that because we reckon the subjects were a little bit close to their heart. They were a bit too easy. We've picked a formidably difficult one today now. Yeah. So the only man you have to beat purely for Sunday dinner, for getting one-upmanship is Bernard Jr. He got 3 out of 5. Yeah. Okay. So that's your target.
Who's the prompter now around here?
And it's all live. So Conor Neville is going to get you set up and ready to go. Thank you, Milesy. Can you state your name, please?
Bernard Brogan.
Bernard Brogan, your specialist subject, which we have chosen for you, is which Brogan did this? Question 1. Which Brogan brother was the first to win Footballer of the Year?
Bernard.
Correct. Which of the Brogan brothers said earlier this year, "I'm not naturally that gifted at football"?
Alan.
Incorrect, Bernard. Which Brogan brother said, "If I started now, I don't think I'd make it"?
Alan.
Correct. Which Brogan brother has the most All-Stars?
Bernard.
Correct. And question 5. Which Brogan brother has sent the least number of tweets?
Paul.
Incorrect. Paul has sent more than Alan. That has been checked. Paul has sent the second most number of tweets. Bernard is miles out in front. He's thousands ahead of everyone else. Paul is about 30 more sent than Alan.
Someone else does it for him.
Yeah. You're not meant to say that, Bernard. Shocking disclosure here. Yeah. Anyway, that's 3 out of 5. Bernard Brogan, 3 out of 5. Yeah. We're going to have a Brogan tiebreaker now. No one who's done this quiz isn't going to be asked. The hard shoulder could go on forever. Really, the quiz anyway. Well done. 3 out of 5.
Thanks very much.
I think the trip to Cancun.
I'm embarrassed now.
The trip to Cancun is off. We should have a trip to Kilkenny because you did manage the Kilkenny footballers once.
Yeah, they don't want me back, unfortunately.
Well, look, Bernard, it was great having a chat with you. Absolutely fantastic catching up.
My pleasure.
It's as I say, semi-final, so another All-Ireland beckons potentially for Dublin.
Well, we'll be trying. I mean, as I say, you need a bit of luck. You need the ball to bounce your way, and I don't think the guys won't be beaten for want of trying. That's all I'd say. Yeah. Well,
best of luck, and you've Bernard obviously still in there now, so flying the flag.
Flying the flag, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Flying the Brogan flag.
Yeah. Anyway, good chatting to you. Thanks,
okay.